Are you struggling to find mental health clinicians to work for your group, practice, or agency? Tired of posting job ads for your open roles only to have no response? Or worse, have the wrong individual apply for the role? What if you had a partner who understood both the intricate requirements and career arc of a mental health clinician and how to recruit them more efficiently to work for your organization? Sparrow Search Services is a behavioral health focused recruiting firm that utilizes their staff expertise as practicing mental health clinicians to source and engage other mental health clinicians who may be open to making a career upgrade. Reach out to Sparrow today via their website, sparrowsearchservices.com, to see how they can help you. Mention keyword Joe in your message to receive $500 off your first placement. Again, that's sparrowsearchservices.com and use promo code Joe to get that discount. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 919. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast. Well, as many of you know or don't know, almost exactly a year ago at the time of this release in October of 2022, we had Killing It Camp in Cancun, Mexico. And while I was there, I got salmonella, which was treated when I got home. And then I left on a trip with my brother shortly thereafter. And that salmonella, I had to have emergency surgery, and then I had another surgery. And it has been a year of just physical stuff still happening as a result of that ridiculous little bug, wherever it came from, bug, germ. I'm not sure what the proper term is. But as a result, in August of 2023, when these recordings were done, and I was scheduled to be the one that did these recordings, my surgery knocked me out. I had some complications with it and had to, go on almost 2 weeks of bed rest, which drove me crazy. But it points to just how awesome of a team I have. The whole team in South Africa came together just so well. Jen, my assistant, just brought everything together. Kate, our new accountability coach, just rocked it out in circle with all of our membership communities. And LaToya and Andrew filled in for me last minute to do these interviews. So you're going to hear a different voice, a different perspective doing these interviews for the next 4 episodes. So episode 918, 919, 920, and 921. Andrew and LaToya split those up. And I'm so thankful for the two of them to do this so that we can keep producing great shows for you. So without any further ado, here's the show.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, LaToya Smith. Well, I'm your host today, right? So Joe normally hosts the podcast, but I'm filling in for him, and it's a great topic. Today, we're discussing masterminds. And I always say I love a good mastermind group, and there's a lot that I think that I get from it. But today's guest is Jeremy Shapiro, and I'm happy to have him on because I want to hear about all things mastermind, the benefit, how to start one, everything. So Jeremy, welcome so much to the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on because I want to learn some more about masterminds. Before we get into my questions, and hopefully the same questions the audience has, tell us a little bit about you, where you're located, and the work that you do.
Sure. Well, my name is Jeremy Shapiro, and I run the Bay Area Mastermind. We're located out here in Silicon Valley, right in the heart of California, in San Jose. That being said, our members come in from all over, not just locally here, but virtually, and some even travel in too. And what we do is we get together like-minded business owners, founders, and entrepreneurs to really spend and dedicate the time working on the business and not just in the business.
Okay, I like that. On the business, not just in the business. Okay, now I think we hear the term a lot, mastermind. I think in the last few years, I feel like I've heard it more, right? One of the main reasons I got involved with Practice of the Practice is because of a mastermind group. But for those that don't know, what is a mastermind group?
Yeah, so a mastermind group, this concept was really formed by Napoleon Hill as he was working with Dale Carnegie and others. And he has a chapter in his book, Think and Grow Rich, called The Power of the Mastermind. And right in there, he shares that the mastermind is defined as the coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. Now, look, that's a little wordy, but what we're talking about is getting together multiple people and seeing the power and the benefit that is really more multiplicative versus additive. What I mean by that is if you've got a problem or a challenge or an idea you want to sort out, when you have a few different people working on that together, it's not like you just get a doubly good solution or a triply good. It's a significantly exponentially larger difference in the solutions you can find and the problems you can work around, whether it's in your business or the life that comes with being an entrepreneur and a business owner.
Mm-hmm. So do I just go out and get like 6 of my friends and we talk about an idea that's important to me, or like how does it, like, you know what I mean?
Oh
Like
my goodness.
I don't think they'll be interested.
So you certainly could go out, but there's a key part that I mentioned earlier that you want this to be like-minded people. So, for example, if you're looking to, in my case, these are all business owners, entrepreneurs, founders, right? These are folks who are growth-focused, lifelong learners with post-revenue businesses that they want to grow and scale, right? Like that's pretty specific. So when people apply to be part of the Bay Area Mastermind, so the biggest reasons that they don't qualify are they're too new in business, meaning they have an idea, but they haven't launched it yet. And for those folks, we actually recently kicked off our founders group, right? Or, revenue is too low, or they're truly a solopreneur and not yet a true business owner. And there's a huge gap between those two that most folks don't realize. Or they're at a stage in their business where they're comfy, they're happy, they're not looking to scale or grow. So again, when we look at who is a good fit for our group, we have a pretty tight definition of who is a good fit and who's not. And that helps us curate a room of like-minded individuals who really want to see each other succeed and grow in their business.
Yeah, so that's really specific. So you're like, listen, when you say like-minded, you mean it. Like, we listen, this you got to fit this criteria to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, for example, one of the things we look for, on our applications, we ask about like, hey, what like books, speakers, authors, events have been influential to you and are important to you. And, if someone ever says something like, like nothing, or I don't really read, like that is not a good fit. Our group, we're lifelong learners. So these are all people who are constantly working on improving themselves, improving their business, and have that sort of that sharpening of the sword mindset. That's not everyone. So by being specific, we can attract more of the right kinds of folks. So you can be surrounded by people who get you, who understand what you're going through, maybe who've been there and done that before.
Okay, so it's not a social club in the sense like, hey, everybody come through, we're going to have a good time. It's like, no, this is a serious working meeting. And
so this is really dedicated time to work on the business. Yes, there's great camaraderie. And there's friendships that come from this. People find new clients within the room, but that's sort of a side benefit of us all getting together and being vulnerable and sharing really where we need help, sharing honest, candid feedback with others. Because for many business owners, we want to have peer advisory, but finding the right vetted peers to actually advise in our business can be challenging. If you look at who the folks are you interact with the most, you can't always share when you have a challenge in the business or when you have a win in the business. So think about what happens if things are tough, if you're having a tough quarter or a tough year, tough month, whatever it is in your business. If you share that with your employees, they start polishing their resume. You share with your vendors, they pull credit terms. You share with the family and friends, they start to get worried, right? Like it's not really a safe place to share that. On the flip side, when things are going really great and you're killing it, your revenue is growing, you're able to get more done and work less hours in the business, and all the measurements of success, however you define that, you share that with your employees. They all want raises. You share it with your vendors, prices go up. You share it with friends and family that start looking for handouts and they expect more from you. Like it's messy out there. So when you can get behind the closed door with people who know, like, and understand what you're going through, you can really share those wins. And if it's a tough time, people want to help you. If it's a good time, people want to celebrate you and appreciate and acknowledge all that you've done.
Yeah. What made you start this Bay Area Mastermind, or decide that this is?
Well, I've been part of mastermind groups before, and in my mind, mastermind groups sort of fit into 2 buckets and then 3 categories within that. And I've been a part of all of those. And what I found is that you can either have what I like to call like a guru-led group or a peer group, right? A guru-led group is probably the masterminds you're familiar with. You hear about a book, you like the author, so you go to one of their events, you start buying more of their stuff, and you sort of ascend up And usually one of the highest price things you can invest in is a mastermind, to be behind the closed doors with them and spend more time around them and hope some of their magic rubs off on you, right? So that's, you're looking for that person at the top of the mountain, and you want to be around them. And whoever else is there, well, they're also sort of fans and followers, much like you, right? The other is more of a peer group, which is like what we run at the Bay Area Mastermind, where my role is to facilitate that, to curate and get the right folks in the room and make the connections, introductions, and facilitate the questions that come up and the direction that the meeting can go. Keeping people on track, asking the questions that need to be asked, and so on, right? And so really, what that's more about is a member being in the right room. Now, there's also sort of, I mentioned those three different categories that I see masterminds falling into, and I've been part of all of these, right? On the one side, you have sort of the high-end destination mastermind. These are usually in the $30,000 to $60,000 a year in investment cost, right? They'll usually require that you're traveling somewhere. Usually it's 3-ish, 4-ish times a year, typically for 2 days or more at a time, right? So you've got a lot of travel time. It's a lot of time away from family, away from the business. It's expensive. And you're, sort of only updating each other once a quarter-ish at best, right? On the other end of the spectrum, I've been part of groups and seen many where it's like more like you were saying, you get some friends together, you hop on a call once a week for like an accountability call. And like those are usually like free or like $97 a month. Like the investment of time, the investment of money is like super low. And so what we found there is like there's just not a lot of accountability. And the 1 week time frame is just a little too tight to really have made big moves in the business, to be needing new feedback from the group. And because there's so little skin in the game, people often don't show up. There's high turnover in the groups, and you don't really get the time to deep dive into an issue going on in someone's business. And in the middle there is really what I found is the sweet spot in all of this, is where the Bay Area Mastermind sits. We get together once a month to spend a full day really working on the business. That provides enough time to really get into a deep hot seat with each individual business that's there, talk about what's really going on, and cover the 4 main things that we share at each meeting as each member has their time in the dedicated hot seat.
I like that. I like the way you broke it down. You're right. That first one's really expensive. The other one sounds like, come through if you want to, which that's the stuff I wouldn't like. You know what I mean? Like I want to be all in. I want to know the same people are showing up and they care just as much as I care. But I like the ones.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with any of these other formats. You were asking more about sort of how I got my start, with masterminds, and I've been through all of those and found what I find works best. That being said, did I get value from the high-end mastermind groups that cost a lot and you got to fly around the world for? Yeah, those were really valuable to my business. And was there value in sort of being in like a weekly accountability group? Yeah, a little bit. But neither, even though there's still value in those, I found sort of the highest ROI was in that middle category where we are.
And I know practice of the practice. Thank you for explaining that, the levels too. There's, like I mentioned before, there's different mastermind groups in the past, there's been one for like launching a group practice, or, you know what I mean? I think I got in like a big ideas one. I love to have a vision and a big idea, get around the people who have ideas and see what's going on. What about the people who are listening? They're like, you know what, this sounds fun. And obviously it's more than just fun, but this sounds good. I would love to do this. Even if it's bringing in residual income for self, right? Or in our own communities. What does that look like if we want to start our own mastermind amongst therapists in the area or whatever,
Yeah, a good question. And I like how you touched on sort of those different categories, right? And that comes down to having the niche, or, who your group is for. Because if you're just coming out looking to, open your first practice, that's very different than talking to someone who runs 10 locations, right? Like the challenges you face, the questions you have are so vastly different. And that's one of the things that we found, for example, and why we spun off our founders group is, in business, a founder who's just getting going or is in pre-launch phase, right, has questions about how to do things and is looking for mentorship and is looking to ask, how do I start with something? Whereas when you have a larger, more established business, well, that's where you get questions about how you take something that's working, right, and scale it up. And it's completely different worlds. And so by niching to whatever your group is, you can get like-minded folks facing similar challenges. And look, there's nuance within that. You can't get too niche, right? So for example, we'll see in our group, you'll have someone who's like crushing with digital marketing, right? They're doing a great job with that. But like the idea of sending out direct mail is so foreign to them. and you'll have someone else who does a really good job with direct mail, but has never really touched, online PPC. And so both are successful in their own way, and both have tremendous value they can offer each other as peers because they're accomplishing similar goals in different ways. And by adding in that example, a different channel, you can significantly grow and reinforce an existing marketing message.
Mm-hmm. That's good. All right. So say now, I like the fact that you're breaking that down too, because I think before, listen, we could all be ready to grow, but where are we at in that stage? And I think you're even helping me now, like, okay, if we want to be like-minded and we want to get the most out of these meetings, let's be even more specific. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's almost like working your client avatar, but your mastermind avatar. Like,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and I love that you touched on knowing your client avatar, because that's one of the things that, for example, founders don't typically think much about. Existing, established, growing businesses sometimes have an idea of an avatar, but having that really dialed in is an exercise that we help folks with, because the better you know your avatar, the much better you can do your marketing, right?
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. So now we know the avatar to do the mastermind, like, create it, boom. What do we send on, like, a Google sheet of questions? Like how do you get people? Like, at this point, I imagine your Bay Area mastermind, they come to you. They're hearing about it.
Yeah.
There's conversations. Okay. But before that
Mhm.
even started, like, how'd you find the people?
Yeah. So, you want to look at, like, where are more people who are kind of like you, right? So, one of the questions we ask on our mastermind application is, like I mentioned, what other events do you go to? What other groups are you part of? Where do you connect with like-minded business owners, right? Because if you get someone who's truly in a vacuum, and has no other outside connection, there's not a whole lot they can bring back to the group of what's going on. So we love when our members are going out and attending conferences, taking courses, reading books, investing in their own education, because those are folks who are coming back to the group sharing the distilled knowledge, right? The best of the best of what they've learned. And if you think about it, any experiment you might think to run in your business, if you could have like a virtual laboratory with 10 other people running experiments and coming back to you with the results of their study and their research, right? That's what a mastermind is, because people are sharing what they've been doing, what they've been learning, and taking the lesson learned and sharing that. So you don't have to, skin your own knees, make those same mistakes all over again. You just get the benefit of the hard work they put in that they're sharing behind those closed doors. Mm-hmm. So go where people like you are, whether that's your trade shows and events, whether that's to conferences on the topics that you find interesting, whether that's other business seminars, whether it's within your own community, and whoever you're connecting with. I've had successful masterminds with customers and clients before. That can also sometimes be a great source of finding folks to connect with.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine too, like, when you reach out to people, because you hear it a lot. I don't need that group. How's that going to help me? What's the benefit? Now, I know maybe for you it's different now. Not maybe, I'm sure it's different now. They're coming to you, so they want to be a part. Whereas if somebody's just starting, how, what if somebody does say, then obviously it sounds like they're not for the group. Like, because if I got to continue to be a part of the group, maybe the group isn't for you. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So there certainly is a fair amount of self-qualifying. Like, for example, at bayareamastermind.com, our process is you can apply for a test drive. So you complete a multi-page application. Then we hop on a call to go over that application, and I have additional questions as well. My whole role is trying to disqualify the folks that shouldn't be part of the group and make sure I'm able to see who could be a tremendous value to the group. And then, like, you don't want to just have any rando in the group, right? So they're vetted, and like I mentioned with the test drive, it's a chance for someone who's interested in the group to try out a full day with us. And then afterwards, we have a conversation of, did you find this group valuable to you? And also, does the group think you would be a good fit and bring value to the group? It's got to be two-way. And like one of the areas where I see that fall apart sometimes is if someone is just there in absorb mode, they want to be a fly on the wall. Like, that's not being a really helpful member of the group, right? Mm-hmm. If they're not asking questions and engaging and respectfully challenging other members about assumptions or areas where they have expertise, then they're not fully participating. And what we want is people who are willing to, challenge other members in the room, again, respectfully so, because that's what you want from peer advisory. Is we all know what we know. Some of us know what we don't know, but the vast opportunity for growth comes from all the stuff we don't know. And that's where peer advisory really helps out. You have someone else who's able to say to you, I'm seeing you're doing this. Have you considered this aspect of why your funnel isn't working, or this piece of, why your hires, your hiring process has been so challenging. You're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea this was important. You don't get that by searching online or Googling for things or looking at YouTube videos or reading a book.
Yeah.
You get that when someone else sees what you're sharing and sees the opportunity that you have blinders onto.
Yeah.
As a therapist, I can tell you from experience that having the right EHR is an absolute lifeline. I recommend using therapy notes. They make billing, scheduling, note-taking, telehealth, and e-prescribe incredibly easy. Best of all, they offer live telephone support that's available 7 days a week. You don't have to take my word for it. Do your own research and see for yourself. Therapy Notes is the #1 highest rated EHR system available today, with a 4.9 out of 5 stars on trustpilot.com and on Google. All you have to do is click the link below or type promo code Joe on their website over at therapynotes.com and receive a special 2-month trial absolutely free. Again, that's therapynotes.com and use promo code Joe on the website. If you're coming from another EHR, Therapy Notes will also import your demographic data quick and easy at no cost, so you can get started right away. Trust me, don't waste any more of your time and try Therapy Notes. Just use promo code Joe at checkout.
And then what number do you cap your groups at? Like, what number is too much? Do you like it more intimate?
Yeah. Really good question. So I found that the right number scales with how much time you have for your meeting. So if you're doing those like once a week accountability meetings, well, like you really can't go more than 4 to 6, right? If you're doing a destination 2-day mastermind, 20-ish, 24 I've seen in the high end can work. If you're going after what we do, which is a full day mastermind to work on your business, we found 10 to 12 members is about the max. Beyond that, you can't get that dedicated time to really dive into each member's business for each member's dedicated hot seat during the day.
Okay, so boom. So every time you meet once a month, it's a full day.
Yeah, it's a full day dedicated to working on the business. That means the laptop is closed, the phone is away, and you're tuned in to what other people are sharing. And what I think is so interesting about like the way we have our test drive process is you see somebody who's interested in joining a group, right? They've got their big burning question, the big challenge, the thing that's keeping them up at night. And they're like, all right, this group is going to help me to solve this problem. I can't wait to share what's going on and get some feedback. But then I look and you see the most notes being scribbled down, the most aha moments, where they look up at the sky, their eyes go wide, and they quickly scribble something down. I see all those during everybody else's hot seat. That's where all the good ideas come from. That's where those light bulbs go off. That's where the gold nuggets are. As by hearing everyone else sharing across each of those 4 categories that everyone touches on during their hot seat.
Yeah. I love that you said that, and you reminded me because I almost forgot about hot seat. So explain that part too. So it's not just people talking over each other. You have an opportunity to come to the group, your space, your time, all eyes on you, and share.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's all eyes on you for sharing. Some folks will, have some notes and talk off the cuff. Many members will actually put together more of a slide deck so things are organized. Others will just do a screen share and sort of share, here's my latest campaign. Let me show you my, my analytics tool or, my CRM, and you can look at it on a screen share. But what's nice about that is it is your dedicated space to talk about what's going on in your business and cover each of the 4 things that members are meant to cover during their session. But it's an open conversation. So when someone shares, hey, here's this marketing campaign I recently ran. Like my open rates were off the charts, higher than anything I've ever done before. And let me show you the orders that came in from that email campaign. Someone can say, hang on a second. Can you go back a screen? What did you do there? Why is that? Right? You can have a conversation around that and everyone gets to benefit and learn from the success you've had. Or on the flip side, people are able to share a challenge with, hey, we recently had a job posting go out. We screened 100 candidates and like, my gosh, like, the 3 I thought would be a great fit, ghosted, didn't show up, had a problem, whatever else. Like, I don't know what's going on. And the group's able to jump in and share, hey, I saw something similar, but here's how I changed that. Here's what I did differently. Wait, let's look at that job posting. And, here's 3 things I see right now that you can be doing differently. And so the group can jump in and again, cover the things that you don't know you didn't know.
Yeah.
So you can have those breakthroughs and those insights and walk away with actionable accountability items to help grow your business.
That's good. So the full day, how long is a hot seat? An hour? 30 minutes?
It varies based on how many members are there. We expect that our members attend every meeting, but we also understand there's life. There's weddings, vacations, conferences, and also 10 meetings a year or more is ideal. So depending on who's there at any given meeting, we'll adjust accordingly. So yes, anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. Some months we even feature a guest expert who will come in and present a workshop on a topic that our group is looking for. So that's where I go and source my network experts in various areas. People are talking about, hey, we want to learn more about, what's happening with Google PPC. Can we get an expert on that? We want to know someone who can help us out with, list buying for direct mail campaigns. Can we get an expert to speak on that? And so we'll have someone come in and run an interactive workshop with our group, not just a presentation, but an actual hands-on workshop with Q&A. So some months we'll have those, on the agenda as well.
Okay. And so every mastermind, I imagine, for it to be of value, there has to be some cost to it.
Of course, yeah.
So it's not free. We're not out here just hanging out and,
Yeah, so there's that category of masterminds I mentioned, like the accountability groups. And those are usually the ones that are more on the free side. And what I've seen firsthand, in multiple groups that follow that format, is there's just there's no skin in the game, right? You're not invested. It's not blocking your calendar. It's not costing you anything. And so the commitment to actually doing anything about it is really low. So you see high turnover. You have people who always find other things going on than being there. Whereas when you actually do have some skin in the game and the time is blocking your calendar, well, you're invested in this. You're far more likely to show up. Just like why you don't want to practice and just offer free community service 24/7. When you actually charge patients for a service and when you prescribe them something that they should be doing that has a high cost financially or obligation wise, the follow through is significantly higher. So for many of those reasons, there is an investment in the group to run the group and to be again around like-minded individuals who also can be part of the same kind of group you're in.
And so, I would say I'm a therapist, right? So for me to get the most of a mastermind group, do I have to go with other therapists? But I also consider myself to be a creative. Can I hang out with other creatives and maybe who bring in the same income per year? It can go either way.
Yeah, really great question. So, one of the things we often hear from folks when we're talking about a mastermind is I have a trade association, I have an industry group, I have this conference, that I go to once a year and so on. And those are good. But do you want to get the same ideas that everybody else in your industry is doing? Do you want to know what every other therapist does so you can be just like them? Or do you want to see the benefits of what we call the cross-pollination of ideas between industries? We've seen the most groundbreaking pivots and growth come from someone in one industry borrowing an idea from someone else. So for example, you have one business where they're an e-commerce business, right? They do all their business online. And then you have someone who has a brick and mortar, medical practice, right? Well, wouldn't you know it? We have doctors in our group who are able to take those ideas for how the e-commerce business does business and start selling online as well, and actually have a physical goods as well as a digital goods business supporting and alongside the practice, right? Or you take someone who is excellent at direct mail, right? And you've got someone who does online stuff and has no idea how to do that. Well, again, you borrow the ideas, cross-pollinate, and how many e-commerce companies are actually doing direct mail to get new customers? Many of our members are authors, but not all, right? So you get someone where there are no authors or thought leaders in their space, and suddenly they're able to ask a room full of authors, hey, how did you get that book published? How did you go from just being, a general practitioner to being the author of a New York Times bestselling book? How can I do that too, right? So that's where you really start to get that cross-pollination of ideas that can springboard a business massively forward.
Yeah. So it takes a lot too of, when you want to start a mastermind, I can see being a part of one, even wanting to start one, a lot of groundwork, right? So we talked about building that group, the avatar, but then how to find the right person, cast the net, is it something you post on Indeed? Is it something you post on social media? Or do you just start asking people who they know? What's the initial ground, to find the right people? Or put the word out there, advertise.
So in my experience, and finding the right folks for our mastermind, they're finding us. The online paid advertising in my experience, does not bring in a good quality lead for what we're doing with our mastermind. But word of mouth, referrals, organic media, all those things are much better. So yeah, like the best place you can go, especially when starting a mastermind, is to your community, right? So who else do you know that is in a similar, well, whatever your avatar is for who you want to hang out with? So for me, it's, hey, who are the other business owners that I know that want to be growing and want to be scaling what they're already doing, right? And so like when we started our new founders group, then the question changed to, hey, who do you know who's getting ready to launch a business, who wants to start their own business but doesn't know how, who has just recently launched and has questions about, going beyond their first customer and so on. And so as you change that avatar, it changes the question you ask, both from a referral standpoint, from a content strategy standpoint, from what you share in your community and so on.
And then I know it can be virtual, but like when you talk about like a full day, are we intentional? Are we posted up in like a hotel in a stuffy conference room? Are we going to like an Airbnb and like relaxing, you know what I mean, with a porch and around a pool? Like,
yeah,
I imagine the location makes the difference too, or does it not?
Yeah. So you want to have a dedicated space that is away from the business where everyone really has that chance to focus. So we meet at private clubs, members only clubs where there are boardrooms available. So it's not the stuffy yellow lighting, dingy hotel sort of setup. High end club, natural light, fresh air, executive chef prepared lunch, beverage bar. So there's nothing you've got to worry about. You can really just focus and everything comes to you and you're able to get that space to really connect. You certainly could meet at someone's office who has a boardroom. But in my experience, that means, you're still sort of within a business and it can be harder to feel like you're getting that space from your business. I've also been like for the higher end groups that are more destination based. Those are either like high end resorts. We've also met at like the private ridiculous mansions where everyone stays for a few days. And so there is the dedicated time in the boardroom on property during the day, but at night there's that social time around the pool, in the lounge area and so on, in a dedicated space. But really, you want people to have a physical space away from the business. We've always been in person, but it was when the pandemic hit that we shifted to virtual, like many businesses had to, and it worked. But we were so glad to finally move back to an in-person with a virtual option available for folks. And by having that, we're able to get members to join us from much further afield than locally right here. It also allows members the option when they're traveling or unable to be there in person that they can still join in. But it is a pretty night and day experience between being in person and having what I like to call all those hallway moments where you're stepping out between sessions and you start chatting with somebody else and you have a much deeper connection with a one-on-one conversation. And that's really where those relationships come from. It's not from the hot seat time in the room. It's from those hallway moments that you have.
Yeah. I love this, Jeremy. You know what it reminds me? I know we're about to wrap up in a second. It reminds me of like sports teams, like from when you played soccer with your peers when you're like 4 and 5, you're just running around, to like when I played on the college level. It's like this camaraderie and you stuck together and you kept going. But now we're talking business. You know what I mean? It just seems, I like that. I like that space of connection.
Yeah, this is not one of those things that you drop and you do one time. The idea is that this becomes your family of entrepreneurs that, almost all of our members are serial entrepreneurs. It's not like you have one idea and this is your one thing. We've seen so many businesses be a seed of an idea of a side business for an existing member that then becomes the next new thing that eclipses the business they started in with the group. And that's really where that incredible growth comes from. And those members stick with us for year after year after year. In some cases, decade plus, because we're a family of entrepreneurs who get each other and see each other through good times, through bad, through challenges, and through celebrations of success. We're always aware of the mountain of stuff in front of us that we need to do, but how often do we take a moment to look back at how much we've accomplished and be celebrated and acknowledged for all that we've done?
I love this. Wait, how many mastermind groups have you run in total? Like, how many have you had?
It has been a lot. I've been a member of many, and I've facilitated many over the years of various shapes and sizes. And the nice thing that comes with that experience is you figure out, in by your own perspective, what works and what could be better.
I love this. So, Jeremy, what about if people want to get in touch with you? They want to stay connected. If they're like, listen, I I want to start my own mastermind group in my area, and I need to hear from
Yeah.
Jeremy. What's the
Love it. So at bayareamastermind.com, BAYAERA, and then mastermind, MASTERMIND.com. You can see what I'm up to there. I also love writing about this stuff all the time. I have an article on there that you're welcome to read about those 3 different categories of mastermind groups. I have a whole deep dive on mastermind hot seats, how to prepare for one, how to run those in your group if you want to do that. You can see our application process we have for prospective members to join us for a test drive. You can contact us there. We've got our live chat, SMS, WhatsApp, however you want to reach on out to my team and I. And if you've got questions on how you can launch this and create your own groups, if you want to join an existing group and just plug in to an existing community, however we can support you in your practice, just let us know. We're all about helping entrepreneurs scale up and get the freedom that they deserve, both financially as well as time-wise.
Awesome. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for being my guest today on my appearance on the podcast as well. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks again to Andrew and LaToya for filling in for me with these podcasts when I had surgery, and to just keep getting this content out there. You guys are amazing. Just a reminder, we have our brand new course called 40 Days to Full, which is totally free for you, and it's delivered via text. Each day, you get a short paragraph about what you need to do that day to really start to fill up your practice. Totally free. All you have to do is text hashtag 40, so hashtag 40, to the phone number 231-422-0677. Remember, data rates apply for that. And also, we couldn't do this show without our amazing sponsors like Therapy Notes. Therapy Notes is the best electronic records out there, electronic health records out there. Use promo code Joe at checkout so you can get 2 months for free when you check out. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have an amazing day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.